Hey y'all, just a little introduction before this video. So it sometimes can be hard when I'm getting footage of doing a project, especially a long or a big project, knowing where I'm going to end one part or if it even is going to be multi-part. And so I don't always get a sign off. I'm kind of trying to change the way I do that so that I kind of give myself some flexibility each time I end filming of a particular day or segment. But the long way of saying this video, these probably the next couple of videos in this series, if there's more than two more, are going to just fade out with a to be continued thing out, my traditional sign off. But I am working on it. I'm going to try to be better about that going forward. But I just wanted to let you know before we get going so I don't have to keep making videos at the end of each edit that I do to explain that there's no end to this one. It just continues on. So thanks for indulging and bearing with us, and I hope you enjoy the video. Hey all, welcome to Homestead. So back at it on Nana's carport and the ramp project. Today I'm going to be, so I don't have the material still for the top of that or that portion of the ramp. I don't even really have enough for this portion of the ramp. I have enough on hand to get one of the stringers for the ramp. So what I've done is I've done a little bit of layout work, and the way to get this, now the challenge that I have here, let me take you over here. Whoa! Okay. So you can see here, I think, if you look, I think you saw this in the first part of the video. This is not square, okay? So this post ended up being a little bit more that way from relative to that post. So it's not a straight line. You can see I've got a string run there, and I'll tell you what that's for if you haven't already guessed. So we got to figure out two things here. There's two measurements that are critical. One is, what is the slope? To get that, you do basic rise and run measurements, right? So you measure the run from the face of this platform to the face of this platform, that distance, and then the change in elevation, that's the rise. So it's like steps, right? Rise and run, and then that's going to give you your slope, Pythagorean theorem, right? A squared plus B squared equals C squared. And I did the math on this, it actually works. It's cool. There's about 104.75 inches on my run. There is 10.25 on my rise, which gives me a 105.25 on my slope, on my hypotenuse angle there. So with those numbers, you go ahead and do the math, and you check me and you see if I'm right, because I am. Anyway, so that gives me a roughly 5.59 degree angle, or 5.6 degree angle. It's a roughly 1 to 10 rise to run ratio, give or take. We're going to use 5.5 as the set point, you know, because it's really not that quarter degree is not going to really be at play here. To get that on here, so you see I already got this line here. To get that line, in case you haven't done this before, take your carpenter square here, and along this edge, you've got degree marks, okay? It says it right there. You got your degrees, 75, 65, all the way down to 5, and each one of these little ticks. So what you do is you take your square, you put it up. I got this backwards. You put it like this, okay? You put it right up here. You put your pivot point on the corner or just off of the corner, just to, because you never know if this is a good square edge coming from Lowe's. Anyway, you got it square here. So this is a 90 degree angle like it should be. And what you do is, this is the pivot point. You move this pivot point until the degrees that you want, okay, in our case 5.5, is lined up with this face of the board, okay? And what you end up with at about 5.5 is this line that I've already drawn. So, and you just, right here. Now, when I cut this, this is gonna be at 5.5 degrees, and it will match up with this board here and slope nice down to this board. Assuming I cut it at the right length, that 105.25 or 105.25. Now, I'm not gonna make that cut, that final cut, until I make this cut and just kind of loft it in place. And by loft it means basically just hold it up, come down. I've marked 105.25 at that end, and I'm just gonna see how that realistically plays with this angle. The reason I'm doing that is because I'm not a seasoned, experienced carpenter that can rely on my measurements and it's gonna be right, accurate all the time. I like to cut and measure, cut and measure, cut and see to make sure everything's lining up. But the other challenge that I have here is because that's not square, because that is sitting at an angle inset, is that not only is the ramp going that way, it's gonna wanna go that way a little bit. So I gotta put a bevel on this edge, and a bevel, so if this you think is a miter cut, a bevel is the angle, so it's gonna go down this way so that the board doesn't come straight out, it actually comes out this way. That's where my string comes into play and why I've lined it up. My string, let's see here, I got pretty much at this corner, okay, and I got it pretty much at that corner. Now I want to make sure that it's at the corner, okay? You want to get this measurement as accurate as you possibly can. So I'm going to get another screw and put it at approximately the same place that I put this screw. Right there on that corner. And then I'm just going to take this string and I'm just going to wrap it around a couple times so it's nice and tight. Boom. Okay. Now, take our carpenter square again. And this time we're going to hold it like this, okay? And we're going to bring the pivot point right up to the edge of that string. Okay, might have to hold it down a little bit because of the slope. You're gonna bring it right up to the edge of that string, and then you're gonna see where does that string cross your degrees at. Okay, so I've got that lined up. It is going at about 2 degrees. Okay, it's coming to that second tick mark there. About 2 degrees. Or is that 3? Sorry, 3 degrees. It's the third one. I noticed there's another one there. So it's about a 3 degree, not pitch because we're going horizontal. It's a 3 degree offset from here to there. Doesn't sound like a lot, but over 9 feet, or a little over 9 feet, that 3 degrees travels that whole distance. So when I cut this board, I'm going to set my circular saw with a 3 degree bevel, cut along this line. We'll hold it up and it should want to go right up to that point, and we'll see how close to my 105.25 inch mark it gets there. Okay, so let's get the, sorry for the loud noise. Let's get the sound. Let's get the saw set up and let's get cutting and see what do we got. Okay, so I don't really have a fine gauge on my bevel setting on my circular saw. I've got 5 degree increments, so I'm taking a guess, putting it closer to the 5 degree mark than not. Not having an exact bevel is gonna not be too critical, but you wanna have close enough, okay? That's what we're doing. Right now I've got the girls over there working on a little mystery. We got some hoof prints and some mystery poop. Something's been coming around our property. I've got them doing some sleuth work to try to figure out what it is. Deer, boar, what? Make sure that you're on the right side of your cut for the bevel. Okay, so in this case, this is going to be the outside of the ramp, the outside of the board, which means that if you're looking at, it's going to cut in this way, which means I need the bevel going this way. I think that makes sense. So this is a scrap that cut off. Now you can't really ascertain too well the bevel, but it's there. It's there. Try to set you in a space that lets you see what I'm doing. Sorry if I just show you my backside. I need you to go to that end of the board and lift it up until I say stop. Oh. Sorry, you okay? Okay. Lower it down. Lower, lower, lower. Lower. Okay, lift up just a little bit. Stop. Lift up a little bit. Stop. Stop. Lift up. Stop. Down a little. Okay, can you hold it right there? Okay, go ahead and put it down. Thanks, kiddo.
Might be a white-tailed deer.
White-tailed deer? Okay, so that 5.6 degree cut that I made is not sufficient to get down here. So, but the bevel seems right. So what we're going to do is we're going to tweak it just a little bit, maybe go 6 degrees and see if that lines up. What it does look like is that my 105.25 mark looks correct. So I'm gonna go ahead and adjust this line. So when I had that up there, it was sloping down and it was still too shallow. So I need to make a greater angle. What do you think, Johnny?
I thought it was like cow.
Deer or horse?
I mean, not deer, but
Cow
cow
or
horse.
horse?
Yeah.
So
It does look more like a cow pie, right?
Yeah.
So, do we got a cow wandering the neighborhood? Okay, so I got this next cut. I don't want to make this cut until I'm reasonably certain that my angle is correct. And the main reason on that is if I keep having to adjust it, I'm gonna have to keep going down. I don't want to keep shortening the board. I think you get it. Okay, so 6 degrees didn't get us there. And based on how high it is, I'm thinking I'm gonna go to 8. Gonna bypass 7, just go right to 8 and see how that does on there. Drops it down a bit. The good news is the bevel does seem like it's right. So Not gonna mess with it. 8 was too much. We'll try 7. All right. 7 1/4, 7 1/2, somewhere around there is the sweet spot. So I'll go for 7 1/4. I'll go ahead and make this cut over here. And I figure 7 1/4 will be nice because that'll be enough to wedge it, if kind of what I want to go for. All right, so I'm making this cut now. Measure it 105 1/4 to here, so that's my new pivot point. Set the same bevel. Just trying to think. Well, let's see what we got here. Put you there. Okay, so I'll take you over here. Let's see how close we got here. So you can see here, it's a bit of a gap here. So the bevel may not be quite right. Might be a little bit too much. I might have gotten too close to the 5 degree. Looks like the 3 degree really was on. Come up here. It's not as pronounced. It actually flushes up pretty good on that side. Sorry. A little bit of a gap back here though. So it could be just that the bevel's right, but the exact where they're at, I'd say a 3 degree, closer to the 3 is probably better, because I'm probably closer to 4 degrees on that cut on where I have the saw set, but it's definitely close enough. I'm gonna come back in here anyway with, sorry, again, gonna put a brace here and then the other corner, and then I don't know about a mid leg here, because this stringer, this span, it's pretty solid for a 2x10. It's a 9-foot span for a 2x10 without a brace in the middle. Now I'll probably end up putting one, but I'm not gonna dig it in, I don't think. What I'll do is I'll cut it to grade, maybe just a little bit longer, pound it in a little bit, and I think call that sufficient, because then if it has any give to it, it'll just pump into the ground. Maybe I'll put a concrete footer underneath it or something. But even without a mid brace, mid support post to the ground, it's going to be plenty strong for this span, and it'll be overall nicer, I think, without the extra But I got this in, which is what I wanted to do. So now I've got my numbers. All right. So the angle is good as far as the miter. So the slope is good. So 7.25 is what I'm going to go with on that, and a 3-degree bevel. The other side should match that. So I just need to get the material to get the other side, and then we'll figure out the rest of the ramp, get enough material for the rest of the decking, and then work on a handrail system, which will be the final touch once it's in place. So that's all I'm going to do at this part.